Let's get this show on the road. You tell me when we're ready. Okay, welcome everybody to the City Council meeting for Monday, August 17th, 2015. At this time, I will call the meeting to order, and we will come up here and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Shelley, you want to do a roll call for us?
I can. Albertson? Bueller? Bueller? Danforth? Manty? Riefenberger? Roby?
Here.
Solom? Thorson?
Here.
Tupper?
Here.
Philhauer?
Here.
Thank you.
Well, I don't expect that this meeting will be quite as controversial as as the first one. We had a very good discussion on CAFOs and on the mall parking lot, and hopefully we'll get something going. Before I ask for approval of consent agenda, I would ask if there's 4 of the council here that would like to be on a committee for me, and we'll discuss them all, and we can get stakeholders in that area together and see if we can't get something worked out. So maybe give that a little bit of thought, and I'll ask for those 4 people either towards the middle of the meeting and end of the meeting. I'll blindside you. Yeah. I don't know who had the candy bars, but thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I'll look for a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda. Motion by Bruce, second by Beth. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2, approval of the agenda. I will look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by John, second by Bruce. You had a mouthful of musketeer there, I think. Any questions, any concerns?
Thank you, Dan.
Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3, authorization for the mayor to sign a towing service agreement with the Vehicle Removal Agency. And Scott, if you want to give us a little update on that.
Yes, I will. Thank you. For as long as I can remember, we've had a contractual agreement with local towing companies to provide services to the Watertown Police Department. Our current agreement was established in 2012, and that'll expire in October of 2015. So over the past several months, I've spoken with interested parties, and tonight I bring to you a contract with 7 interested local towing companies. And what I'd like to do is ask for your permission for the mayor to sign the contract.
Okay, what I'll look for is a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Dan, second by Mike. Any questions you have for Scott on this?
Scott, how many have we had in the past?
It's ranged from anywhere from 4 up to 6, I think was the highest I can recall.
Do we need 7, put it that way? I mean, here you're gonna, I look at it kind of the same way as the taxi service. How many taxi services could Watertown support? And I think there's a lot of people out there that have been in this business for a lot of years that have invested a lot of money into their equipment that we could put at jeopardy by just keep adding and adding and adding, so.
Well, that's a good question, Randy. I guess from the police department point of view, we have a neutral stance in it. We certainly don't mind if there's 1 company or if there's 8 companies. It's certainly something that we try and provide some opportunities for our local businesses to become involved with, and if they want to be involved as a 7th company or an 8th company or 9th company, whatever that would be, we're certainly willing to work with those folks as long as they meet all the requirements that we have for them to meet. So in this case, all 7 do.
In which, probably more requirements than you needed to be a police officer, put it that way, but how do we police the requirements, put it that way?
Well, I stay on top of those issues as they come about, but when we go to establish a contract such as this one, I met with all the towing companies. We went through all the different requirements that we have in the contract, everything from background investigations to insurance limits that they have to drug and alcohol testing of drivers, to inspection of their vehicles, background checks, civil and criminal background checks. It's a fairly lengthy list of things that these local companies have to do to be on our contract. As a matter of fact, I've even had some folks call and wonder what the requirements are, and they never bothered to call back because it is a fair amount of requirements that they have to meet. So I guess, like I said, as far as we're concerned with the police department, it might require a little bit more of my time to manage or work with 7 companies than it would 1 company. But in the end, fortunately, we don't have a lot of issues with the towing companies, and usually it's a fairly manageable operation.
What are the new ones?
In this case, this year, Rogers Auto Sales, their company requested to be back on the towing rotation, and then also C&M Highway Service.
Hey, Scott, now, just refresh my memory a little bit. If someone got in an accident and they wanted to call their own towing company, that's what they do, right? This is just if they say, just get me a tow truck.
Right.
And you'll call who's ever on the list.
Right. The registered owner of the vehicle, we always give them the opportunity to choose whatever towing service that they'd want to choose, even if they're not on our contract. But in the case where either the registered owner of the vehicle doesn't care or we don't have a registered owner present, then we'll just use our towing contract. And basically what this does is it speeds up the process as well as assures the citizens of Watertown that these people that are on this list have really had to put some effort in to be on this list. And it gives them just a little bit of assurance that their vehicle is going to be towed by somebody that's insured, somebody that's been in the business and knows has a certificate of towing, knows how to tow, that sort of thing. And then it also requires things like a storefront business, because they have to have a place to put these cars. They can't tow them to Randy's house and park them in the driveway. So, it requires things like that. So I try not to give any ideas, Randy.
Any other questions for him?
The way that works is I think has been in the past, it's a rotating schedule, so everybody gets this equal opportunity. If they're not available, you move down the list, and then you start from that point and
And this is
continue on.
just the Watertown Police Department, right? I mean,
Well, 2 different questions. To answer Bill's question, every Monday morning at 6 a.m., we rotate to the next company, and then they're on for that week till next Monday at 6. To answer Randy's question, we do allow the Sheriff's Department, Highway Patrol, any other law enforcement agency that would like to use this list, they can certainly use it. They're not, the drivers or the owners, the tow companies are not necessarily in need to comply with all these because, for example, we have a 30-minute response time. So any call in the city of Watertown is 30 minutes, but if they have to drive from here all the way to the north edge of Cottington County, obviously it's going to take them more than 30 minutes to get there, so.
Rogers was in the rotation at one time, a number of years ago. They chose to get out. Why are they choosing to get back in, or why did they choose to get out before? Or?
Well, they're currently not in this 3-year contract from 2012 to 2015. Prior to that, they were involved as far back as I can remember.
Yep.
I guess it was a business decision of theirs to become back involved with the contract again this year.
Yeah, I talked to Monty. They just wanted to get back in there and
Sure.
and start doing it. So, yeah, life is good. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Authorization for the mayor to sign a contract for server access agreements with Clark County, Dual County, Hamlin County, Webster PD, Clark PD, Esteline PD, and Sisseton PD. At this time, if you want to go ahead, Scott?
Well, basically what this is a continuation of the REAM program, which stands for Rural Information Exchange Model. This was a project that the police department did back in 2009, which basically established a records management system as well as delivery of data to in-car computers within many law enforcement agencies within near distances to Cottington County. Anyway, as this program has continued since 2009, The Watertown Police Department has always been in the position of collecting funds from each of these agencies and then turning those funds over to our CAD software vendor. What's changing in 2016 is these agencies will now all establish their own contract with the software provider, which is Zerker Technology out of Sioux Falls. And our role as a police department here is to allow them access to our servers, so each one of those organizations don't have to buy an expensive server, and more than likely, they wouldn't be able to continue using the REAM program because of cost. But because of the fact that here in Watertown, we want to be good friends and neighbors to our county partners, who, by the way, are also, a lot of these are connected to our 911 center. It only makes sense for us to share that information directly from our 911 center as well as our server. You know, it's intelligence-led policing at its best.
Okay, at this time, I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Brad, second by Bill. Any questions you have for Scott?
Whatever.
I have one. It's not really relevant to this topic, but I'm
Yeah,
curious.
well, let's not ask it. No.
Okay, strong arm mayor. Question, I'm just curious, how is Zerker working out for us?
Zerker's been a real good product for us. You know, one of our ideas back when we first started looking at them as a company was they were a local company, meaning a South Dakota company. You know, over the last 3 years, we really haven't had very many problems at all, and when we have, they've been here to fix it in a timely manner, or been able to fix it in a timely manner without coming here. But really, we're happy with the product. We just found out a week ago that they are now merging, I guess would be the right word, with a much larger company. And you know, we've already set in place some of our negotiations for the next 3 years as far as what our contracts will cost. So we don't see any changes in expenses or anything like that as a result of this new merger between Zerker and its Tritech, I believe, is the new company.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Scott. Number 5, consideration of change order number 2 to the contract with Gray Construction for the wastewater treatment facilities. Alkalinity feed addition project increase in the contract amount $957. Shane, if you want to give us a little heads up on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, this is a wastewater treatment facility project. They're working on their alkalinity feeding addition. This is related to the change order number 1, where we had to reroute some sludge pipes to proceed with our improvement for the alkalinity project, because those lines weren't located in the location where we thought they were. They're in the way, in other words. While they were doing the excavation to reroute those, they found some debris in a portion of the wastewater facility property, and so this change order addresses the removal and disposal of the unwanted debris. So this is a reasonable request for $957.
Okay, at this time, I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So move.
Wow, a lot of, motion by Beth, second by Mike. Any questions you have for Shane? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 6, consideration of change order number 2 to the contract with Crestone Builders, Inc. for the Uptown Alley Reconstruction Project, increasing the contract amount by $2,402.88. Shane, you're up again.
Yeah, thank you. This obviously is for the Uptown Alley reconstruction and Midway Alley specifically. The first portion of that change order included the addition of steel dowel bars that we use to tie the 2 segments of pavement together at the center. It keeps them from moving independently and creating bumps that we all drive over with our cars every day. But anyway, that was an issue that we decided was a little bit more sensitive in this alley because of the amount of water and the way the soils were shifting underneath our project throughout the rainy portion here. So we decided that adding the dowel bars was an important item. And then another $1,800 for this change order is included to additional mobilization and scheduling that our contractor had to overcome. Essentially, Slumberland had some additional work that they needed to do as a reaction to the rains, and they had issues with their basement and so forth. So they went on and did some work privately. Well, that impacted the schedule of our project by over a week. And so we are recommending that we approve the $1,800 for the extra work and headaches that they had to go through with that process, so.
Okay, so I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Randy. Second by Dan. Any questions you have for Shane on this one?
If anybody hasn't had a chance to drive down that alley, I mean, they did a wonderful job, so I mean, it's really improved that, so.
Pardon me?
There was still some left
No,
open the
there's
last
just a
time I was
little-
down. Has it been completed?
No, there's just punch list items left, very minor stuff. It's essentially open to the public and being used.
Perfect. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 7, consideration of change order number 2. It's a final to the contract with Crestone Builders, Inc. for the Summerwood Concrete Street Replacement Project, increasing the contract amount $29,986.25. Now, I don't have the narrative. I asked Sarah to bring, yeah, if you want to read that narrative, I think it would be good to get it out there.
Okay, I have a copy of it, and I'll read it. This is prepared by the Assistant City Engineer, Sarah Karen, and it's a brief description of the additional work. After the project was begun, there was some public input on the project scope, and so a meeting was held. So, following that meeting with the neighborhood staff and mayor, the project was expanded to include a section of pavement which was not originally selected for replacement, accounting for approximately $20,000 of the increase. The remaining expense was for replacement of gutter between a new roadway that the city installed and new parking lot pavement which the homeowners association was installing. And then there was a minor change order amount here that was included the replacement of unsuitable material that was encountered in the base course of a portion of the project. So most of this change order was a direct result of public input and concern over that the project didn't cover as much as they anticipated, and they had some other issues they wanted taken care of. So city staff, along with the mayor, decided to expand the scope of the project to include those concerns at that time. So we recommend approval of this change
Okay,
order.
so what I'll do is I will look for a motion and a second for
So-
discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Glenn,
Second.
second by Mike. Any questions that you have for him? I think the road turned out great.
I have a quick one. Did that go by, did we look at these changes? Did the council look at the proposed changes, the addition to the project?
I don't think that would have been brought to the council's attention. Typically, a change order is something that is brought to staff attention, and
No, I understand what a change order is, but my question is, when we make a change to a project like this, did that, unless I missed it, did that come to the council for approval?
No, it is at this time.
Yeah,
But-
it really wasn't a change to the project, and I can explain to you what happened there if the narrative didn't do enough. When we did the Summerwood project, we originally expected this to be substantially more money than what it ended up to be. We were going to replace all the roads in Summerwood at that particular time. That's what my understanding was. Am I correct, Glenn? He lives out there. So what happened was, is the engineering department, the street department came down, we discussed it, and they said, gosh, I think we could just kind of piecemeal this thing together. It looks like there's some concrete that was gonna not be needed to replace, until we actually got into the job. So mind you, we expected it to be X amount of dollars, brought it down to a lower amount. Then when we went out there, it needed changing. So-
Correct. This additional work still is within our original project budget.
Yeah,
So
just,
we-
you know,
Our project budget was in the area of 150,000, and the bids came in at somewhere around 120 something. And so by adding this work in, we're still in our project budget, or what we originally intended to spend. So that was one of the reasons why this work was easy to accept.
yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the original budget for this project out there was actually 300,000 is what was budgeted for this year. And so we're coming in even with the change order, significantly under what was budgeted.
So the scope of the project was substantially larger than what it ended up being, and it was just the right thing to do to add in that extra half a block or whatever that might be to get that accomplished.
In visiting with Rob tonight, he also said there's another part that has alligator tracks in it, I think he said. And he said if we don't take care of it next year, it'll destroy the road, and that's just another part on the other end of Summerwood that didn't get done that, you know, probably could have, should have too, but we didn't do it. And so, but he said it has to be put in for next year, so that, there'll be more on Summerwood again next summer.
I'm assuming that the unit price was the same as the original bid was?
That's correct. This work is all based on the unit prices for the project, and this is the final change order, and the final sheet on the handout for the change order shows all of the changed unit amounts.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 8, authorization for the mayor to enter into a purchase agreement with the Watertown Development Company to convey property located at 325 West Kemp for an economic development purpose. I'll fill in this a little bit, Stanton, before you have to jump in there. If you remember right, one of the council meetings, we purchased the properties on 325 West Kemp and then the 2 additional lots going west. We bought those, and during our discussion, I think, Mike, you brought it up, why do we need this house there? So we actually put that house up for sale. We were asking $39,900. We had an appraisal done on that particular piece of ground, and there is a willing buyer willing to buy this. But what the city needs to do is we actually have to have the Watertown Development go through the process of selling this for us. So we're wanting to enter into an agreement with the development company at no cost to actually sell the property for the city of Watertown, and then they'll give a check to Shelley. The sale price is $39,900.
So is that where the existing house is now, or to the
Yes.
west side of that?
It's the existing house that's there. It's on the east side of that property.
Just a comment, that's pretty routine to get the development company involved as a conduit for transactions like this?
Yeah, the other way municipalities can convey property is very cumbersome. So this mechanism exists. So if it truly is for economic development, we can have them be the conduit, and it just makes life so much simpler.
And I couldn't really hear you, but I think you said makes life so much easier. I just got to give you a bad time. That's all right. So I will look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Don, second by Mike. Any questions on that? Go ahead, Mike.
Is this the property, or is this, I'm Mike Davis. Is this just the property, or is it just the house, or is this property and house?
Just the house. Well, they're buying the house and property right there. That will stay. We actually needed just the 2 bare lots for anything that we do on a road when we make that.
Yeah, when you're trying to run that road over onto the stone bridge. I understood that right away, and I knew I was buying it, but I don't know
Exactly.
who negotiated that contract, but that was a bad deal.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody from the audience that wants to pipe in on that one? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 9, is there any old business that you want to discuss tonight? Hearing none, any new business? I would like to make mention, October 6th through the 9th, we have the South Dakota Municipal League coming to Watertown. There will be anywhere between 350 and 400 people from different municipalities around the state of South Dakota. There'll also be possibility of over 100 vendors that will be here. This is all held out at the event center. We expect our hotels to be full, and the cost to the city, we expect it to be around $8,000. I did go in front of the bid board today and asked them for $3,500 to participate in this because there will be heads in the beds, and they actually approved the city of Watertown for $3,500. So I wanted to openly thank them for what they're doing. It will be a good deal for Watertown. Any other new business?
Mayor, I just might mention, we did have a meeting earlier, or I guess it was last week, in regards to the softball complex and where things are at with that. We kind of discussed some of the details on the new fiveplex. I think we're getting it down to the final details so that we can get this bid. Helms and Associates assured us that we would be playing on that in the spring of 17.
I think we as a council should put together a ball team. Yeah, they're looking for old guys.
I'll be the coach.
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to mention was, we've had some conversation with Joan Porth. This is on the 16th Avenue up north of the roundabout. There's been a issue with geese in the pond up there. She's not happy, some of the neighborhood's not happy. So we're looking into that to see what we can do as a city, but I know that she's contacted the Game Fish and Parks, and they'll take a look at the goose problems. I think Mike wants to dig in some pits. That's what I heard.
I think that's the only solution.
Early season. Double secret early
Only
season.
only solution I'm aware of.
Stan, can we give a special permit for shooting in town for like a couple of days?
Absolutely, Mayor, you can authorize people to discharge firearms in the city limits.
Maybe
It'd go over like a ton of bricks, wouldn't
yeah,
it?
they'd go down there with a taser or something.
Yeah. I have, a,
So we are working on that issue.
I have a great goose chasing dog, by the way. Outstanding goose chasing dog.
Mayor, I got a question for you. So it's kind of, I don't know if it's new business, old business, but my understanding is that the contract at least has been worked on to be issued for the work at the golf course, but I haven't heard is the contract actually done to allow them to start work?
Yeah, the contract has been signed, sealed, delivered. They have their equipment out there as of today. They should be bulldozing. I don't know the numbers of those, but there's like 3 of them right in a row there on the yellow course that they're gonna be knocking over right away. And that should happen probably tomorrow. You'll see that going on.
They had to wait 10 days, Mike. They sprayed the greens, and they had to wait 10 days before they could start anything. That's why they just moved their stuff on today. So they should, either tomorrow or Wednesday, they should be in full motion.
I have a question about the drainage issues up in the northeast in the bike path area. I know we had that public meeting roughly 2 months ago. Any update on that?
I have talked to the consulting engineer a little bit about that, and he's done some preliminary design, but we haven't formalized the scope. I mean, part of the design, of course, is to design a tile for that area, but there's also going to be a substantial amount of grading and reevaluation. We don't know exactly how much impact there may be on some wetlands, if they're even delineated as such yet, but that project will need to be evaluated for more than just running a tile up there.
But we can assure those folks that you're
Yeah.
gonna get something done, right? I mean,
Right.
you're not gonna wait another 2-3 years.
No.
This is next year.
We're looking at a next year project, yeah.
I just,
there-
sense
there
of the
won't-
fact that we promised to communicate to them, like, 2 or 3 months, that we would get a plan to them. So we do have the email list for them. We should communicate with them.
Right, but I hate to send out something that's only partially done. I'd rather get that pushed to a little bit further completion.
Well, even
before-
if we communicate to them what we're doing, just that we're still working on it, because I gotta be honest, and I know, Shane, this really, you weren't here, and this has been a longstanding problem, but this is all they've heard. For 4 years that I've been involved, this is all those people have heard, and they are very frustrated. And I don't blame them for being frustrated, you know, in part, I don't. You know, even if we tell them where we're at and give them a time frame that we can live to. Because they were told that night that there would be a plan to them in 60 days. And that's like Wednesday of this week.
Yeah, and I don't remember the days that said we'll have a plan by 60 days. I know that we said we'd have a plan and that we'll get that taken care of up there. I just want to make sure. One other thing, Shane, I had a notice of concern. I don't know if the folks realize that if they do have a concern, they can go to our website and fill that in. The notice of concern comes directly to the mayor and also to the department head that it involves. They come in really handy. That last notice of concern came in about a storm drainage on 19th Street, that we are going with concrete through some of it, a regular stormwater, and also then we're gonna go on top of the ground on part of it, is that correct? Through the ditch, or is it all underground?
Well, I did get a copy of that notice as well. And what I did is I forwarded that on to the DOT engineer that's managing that project for the city to bring those concerns or that question to his attention. And really, what the base question of the, I don't know if I call it a complaint or not, but a concern is that there was a 2-block period within that project that didn't have any specific storm sewer pipe work in it. Well, without evaluating the complete design, and I'm assuming that the engineering team that actually designed the roadway did their due homework and determined that that area didn't need to be include storm sewer pipe. So usually, typically, if that's at the top, the highest point, and then you drain a block either direction or a couple blocks one direction before you start to actually collect surface water. So I'm assuming that void of storm sewer is towards the high end of the project and wouldn't require it at that point. So, but I did bring that concern to the design team and the construction management team. So looking for some answers through that.
Okay. And Ray put up on the board there how to report a concern. It's just kind of nice, even if you see a great big old pothole that needs to be fixed and that we aren't seeing or drive by and we're just not looking at the holes. Here's the easy way to get over there. It's right at the webpage, Watertown webpage, right in the middle there, report a concern. I would encourage anybody that has a concern to slide it in there. It gets to us.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. I mean, that's a very good way to receive information for us.
Mike, you can't use it though, okay? Davis, you
Only
can't
two-
use that.
Only limited 3
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah, yeah, you stay out of there, yeah.
Just kidding.
Will someone send a response back?
What?
Will someone send a response back if you report a concern?
Absolutely,
Thank
yep,
you.
yep.
Shane,
And
I have
it's
a
usually within the next day.
Shane, I have a question. Is there any update on the bike trail out by Memorial Park? I haven't heard anything about that again for a while, and that was, at one time, it was kind of on the top of the list, and I don't know what's happened to it now.
Yeah, it's not on the top of a current list that I have right now, but I mean, I've heard snippets of the
can
completion
address
of
that,
the
Shane,
bike
if you'd
trail,
like.
but that's, what?
I can address that if you'd
Okay,
like.
that's fine.
It still is at the top of our concern, my list. What's happened is that we were going to go over on some property, I forget the name of that street, but you know what I'm talking about. John, you were there, Dan, you've been there, I've been there. Instead of doing that, we decided to go a little bit to the north and go kind of through some wetlands. And what the state will do is they will work all the way through Memorial Park with us to get that done. We're gonna take it through that wetlands and get it over to the road, and then we'll take down. Because we pulled out the parts on the road, the state says, sorry, it's another year down the road. So they'll look at it next year of doing that.
So we can't come from the other direction then?
Those DOT guys are hard to deal with. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, it's going really well, but it'll just happen next year rather than this year. Any other things?
Just a quick one. Shane, I've had a constituent, someone mentioned the stop sign. It's a temporary stop sign that's on 18th Avenue Northeast. and I believe it's Sixth Street. There's a set of, I think it's on Sixth Street, there's a set of stop signs there, but they've been there temporary, and they're asking that they would make those permanent.
Is that that must be part of the detour route?
You know, I don't know that it is, but with.
18th Avenue or 3rd Avenue?
18th Avenue, way out there to on the north side of the new middle school. And when you go west, I think it's about 6th Street, then that's, or 6th Street, yes. I think that's, there's temporary stop sign there. I drove up there and looked at it, and it really, to me, it makes sense that we consider leaving those there, making those permanent. But if you get an opportunity, perhaps you could go up and take a look at that and see if that would make sense to do that.
Especially after that.
Also, I'm sorry, another one too is where the park is, to the south of that, where that park is, where the road curves through off of 14th Avenue. There's a duplex area there where there's a lot of fences that go along the road. They're those big plastic fences. There's also been some concern that may be a good spot for stop signs as well. So if you could take a look at that, that might be worthwhile too.
You're gonna see a huge increase in traffic up there when that new school opens, so I agree with you.
That's a big
yeah.
part of it. And this comes from somebody that lives in the neighborhood up
Yep.
there, and I said that I would bring that to.
Okay, that's a double-faceted review, both from engineering standpoint and from public safety, so we'd probably visit with the PD and the fire chief and get their weigh in on those potential stop signs as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm hoping today that we got the corn cut out of the roundabout.
That's why all those geese are up there.
Yeah, I think so. There was some corn growing out up there. You know, we have a very nice facility, and the weeds were horrible. I think I talked to Rob today, and he was going to take care of that. So hopefully that's all taken care of.
I watched a guy last night, went up there. I don't know if he's related to you or not, Steve, but I watched him go round and around and around and around. We drove up by the middle school, came back. He was still going around and around and around.
That wasn't Al Vanderline getting stuck
No,
up
Randy,
there,
I went
though.
around there 3 times is all I did.
Well, it wasn't you.
Say, I do have a question in regards to 19th. Has the water leak, I saw now they've moved in more equipment today. Looks like they're getting ready to dig out the road again. Are we, any hope we're gonna find the water leak that you're aware of at the utility standpoint? And second, when will the work start to progress in regards to the grinding, the mill and overlay?
I did talk with Steve Lehner, General Manager of Utilities, today about a number of issues, and I asked him that very question. And he told me that the leak has been confined from Arrow down to the intersection of 19th and Willow Creek Drive. And they've been doing bore testing, and that there's going to be some hydraulic testing company coming up here, and that they're going to be able to pinpoint the leak. They're going to be on site July 31st doing that work, and he said it's probably not going to take them too terrible long to find that leak.
Probably August.
August.
Sorry, I'm in August 31st, yep.
Yeah, they're gonna do a helium test. They pump helium into the pipe, and then they have a sniffer that can detect that, and yeah, so that is scheduled for the first week of September. So
I think if you remember it, I think I mentioned they could put gas in that pipe and strike a match and they'll find it, but helium's probably a better idea.
So assuming that they do this, when would you project 19th?
okay,
You got 2 sections of it.
yeah,
The north part
correct.
that's got major reconstruction. You got the southern part, which is the mill and overlay.
Okay,
Just
so-
a rough idea.
right. Okay, so there's 3 projects that are actually tied together. The one that they're working on right now is 3rd Avenue by the school, because the utility company was in there working, and we wanted to make sure that that street got rebuilt before school opened. Then the next step that's gonna happen is the city has the mill and overlay plan from Willow Creek south to 212, so that's next. And then the last leg of that, in about the 3rd week of September, is when the milling is scheduled for the north portion of 19th Street from Willow Creek up to the north end. And that's always been in their schedule, and we're still on that schedule. There is some other work that you'll see happening in that corridor. The utility company is still disconnecting a certain amount of the water shutoffs, and then we've actually had some discussions and a lot of coordinating discussions over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, with regard to that work. And if we get to a certain point where they don't have all of their water services shut off that they want, then we'll just discontinue that and then proceed to put the road back together. So we have had several meetings with all three of those contracts to try to make sure that that work is coordinated so that we find a smooth finish to the construction season out there. I hope that answers your question.
It does. One last question. They were supposed to start milling and overlay today on Third Avenue going from 81 to the school. Did that start, do you know?
I believe it did.
Good. That should be done in just a couple of days, my understanding.
Mayor, anything to report on the airport in the last couple of months since?
We just had a meeting today, the airport board. We met at noon, and Milt Carter resigned as president of the airport committee because his business has expanded. They've taken on many more acreage for potatoes, so he doesn't have the time to be there. We did go through the entire meeting. I believe they had a vote on president and vice president and secretary. I believe the president is Mark Schroeder. The vice president is Jason Kosuski, okay, and then Byron Callis is the secretary. So they'll be handling that. The concerns are, of course, we also approved the SDCPA, where they're going to go out and try to get the $150,000 grant for promotion of marketing on our new airline when we do get it. So we're just trying to get ahead of the game here. We still have not heard anything from the DOT as far as our letters that we've sent for removal of Great Lakes Airline, and we have not heard anything about going out for an RFP yet for a new airline. I will tell you this, it was interesting to hear our airport, the FAA wants to, narrow it down and shorten it down, and they're doing the same thing to Aberdeen. And it's interesting how this works. We have the two runways that are separate from the one taxiway. Aberdeen's runways bounce into the taxiway, so they're all hooked together on that taxiway. What's happened is for Aberdeen, and you might want to talk to Todd tomorrow, they're getting kind of screwed over by the FAA on this deal. They're got to shorten up their runway. They'll have a much narrower, shorter, and they've already received a letter from SkyWest that if this happens, they will not fly into Aberdeen. So that would be a benefit. You kind of feed off of this. It'd be a benefit to us because SkyWest could fly into Watertown, and just the way our airport was positioned on the runways, it makes a big difference. So that's what we're kind of hoping on. That not for bad news for Aberdeen, but it's just the way it is. Yeah, you are. Yeah. Now I'll talk to Mike here shortly, but that's kind of what the scoop is on the airport, and it's going well. We're just waiting to hear back from the DOT. We also did on our mileage. We did send another letter off because, as you know, on the Essential Air Service, what happens is that we have a $200 subsidy, which goes up to a $1,000 subsidy. As our air employments go down, the subsidy goes higher. We're almost at that $1,000 level, and that's bad news. So they also had, based on this subsidy, it's kind of crazy how this works. The center of town is Broadway and Kemp, but in all reality, when we annex the lake in, we gain more mileage. So we need to be more than 208 miles from the Minneapolis airport, from our airport door to the Minneapolis, or from the center of Watertown to the Minneapolis Regional Airport. We got to be 208 miles. By adding in the lake, which is part of Watertown, it now moves us to 211.2 miles. And in order to not have the $200 subsidy cap, you gotta be 210 miles away. So we're within a mile and an eighth out or so. So it's kind of interesting how that's all going.
We have to buy more land?
Yeah, no, so we've sent that letter. We're waiting for the DOT to acknowledge that. They've all acknowledged they've got the letter. They just haven't acknowledged that they're going to do anything, right? That they're going to do anything. I would ask, as we mentioned right in the very beginning, do I have any volunteers to be on the committee to form for the mall? I got Randy and Bruce. A couple more. Mike, one more, and Bill. Perfect. We'll put them on a little committee. We'll actually ask the stakeholders to be involved in this. I think it'll be a good deal. We'll get all involved. Anything else? Any liaison reports?
Well, I have a lady that pulled me aside on my way home from church, walking home from church, and she said, I want you to go and tell all you and all those fellas what a good job you're doing, and that she appreciated everything we were doing, and that we work very hard, and she gushed over how well we were doing, and I'm getting used to now people recognizing me that I don't recognize, but anyway, she's like, come here, and so I wanted to share that with everybody as the sunshine report for today, so.
So is it that your mom was in town, is that what you're saying?
Huh? Huh?
Your mom was in town, is that what you're saying?
No, it wasn't, yeah.
John, too?
Yeah, yeah, she meant, that was good. No, she meant all of you, even John.
All right, even John. Okay, is there anything else? I will look for a motion to adjourn. There's no need to go into executive session, is there, you guys? Okay, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mike, second by Don. Any, well, heck, let's just go and vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.